If you're an educational content creator, you need to know about this triangle right here, because the principle behind it decides if you'll make any money whatsoever with your digital products. Just look around YouTube long enough and you realize most creators actually get this wrong all the time. It's not about better thumbnails, titles, or hooks that grab attention in 2 seconds these days. At least not when it comes to making the sale. I'm literally working with a creator in the health and well-being niche right now who has a bunch of products, workshops, downloadables, and even a book. They have 40,000 followers on Instagram, almost 50,000 on Facebook, but zero online sales from these channels, zero conversion. And it's not because the educational content is bad, it's because of this triangle here. The moment they understand the principle behind it, selling any digital product becomes a lot easier for them, just like it will for you. Hey, welcome to this video. Tobias here. If you don't understand the conditions that produce an outcome, you cannot predict it and you certainly cannot control it. It's one of these things you learn fast when you manage systems. And that's great life advice, right? But it's a bad starting point if you want to sell stuff online. If you still think thumbnails, titles, and hooks really make the difference, you haven't figured out what makes the people tick that are supposed to buy your digital products. Before they spend a single dollar on your stuff, they have to confront this triangle, specifically the 3 conditions it stands for. Every viewer, every subscriber, every customer has a triangle with those same conditions. And they have to decide on one of them first before they buy anything. So here's what the triangle stands for: problem, time, and money. And the combination of these 3 conditions at any given time determines what your potential customer will do next. Not what they say they'll do, not what they intend to do, what they will actually do. Condition 1 is the problem. Your viewer or customer always has a problem, a need, a desire, a challenge, whatever you want to call it. If they're watching your educational content, the condition is met. They wouldn't click if there wasn't a gap between where they are right now and where they want to be. So for the rest of this video, I want you to assume the problem condition is always true. Your viewer has a problem. That's a given. Because if they don't, they have no reason to look for a solution in the first place. Condition 2 is time then. How much available time does your customer have to solve the problem themselves? You know, most content creators, especially in the educational space, completely ignore this one. But it's a deciding factor whether your viewer turns into a paying customer or if they stay free content consumers for life. Think about it. If you have all the time in the world, you'd probably spend some of it figuring out your own problems from time to time. But when you don't have the time, you're very likely to pay for a faster solution. The 3rd condition is money, cash available to buy a solution. And here's the part that surprises a lot of creators I work with. Money on its own doesn't predict anything. Rich guys never buy a $47 product, but then there is someone with a super tight budget who buys a $1,000 YouTube course only to learn what it really takes is consistent uploads. Well, guilty as charged. Now, the difference is not the balance on the bank account, it's the relationship between money and the other 2 conditions, especially time. I give you an example. A few weeks ago, I moved from Premiere Pro to DaVinci Resolve for video editing, which meant I had to figure out Fusion if I want to keep working with effects and animations. Now, my problem within that triangle was clear. I need a working editing setup and I need it fast. So that's condition 1. The problem is there. I'm running a consulting business, I'm creating content, I have client calls, operations, and a small team to manage. So my available time to sit down and learn Fusion from scratch is limited. It would take me weeks to figure out how to build animations that work and look reasonable as well. So this is where the money condition comes in. I have a business budget. It's not unlimited, but I can certainly invest in tools that save me time, especially after canceling that insanely expensive Adobe subscription. So I'm sitting there at this decision point, and the math is actually super simple. If I spend a full work week, so 40 hours on learning Fusion, and my hourly rate is $50, I'm investing $2,000 in making animations for videos just like this one. Even if I cut my hourly rate to $25, $15 or $10, we're talking 1,000 bucks, 600 or 400. Alternatively, I could just go and buy an animation pack someone else has already done. Another content creator who put the work in, the hours, and has a lot more expertise doing animations than I ever will. So, long story short, $79 is what it cost me to get my hands on animations just like this one here. Or maybe this one. Now, if they do look clunky, it's on me because I haven't played around with all the settings just yet. $79 versus 2000 though. That's not even a decision. That's common sense, I think. So I bought the pack and I solved my problem in about 5 minutes. Hours of trial and error and watching YouTube tutorials avoided right here. It's obvious now, isn't it? But only because you can see the triangle. My problem was urgent. My time was minimal. My money was available. So all three conditions aligned, and that's it. Now, here's the question though: would the same decision hold if one of the conditions changed, actually? So let's play this through. Same problem. I need to learn Fusion. But instead of running a business, I'm between jobs right now. So I have the time. My calendar is wide open. But my budget is tight. Now, that $79 animation pack isn't necessarily an easy choice anymore. Now it's a trade off. Do I spend the money I don't really have, or do I invest the time I actually have? In that version of the triangle, I probably spent 3 weeks learning Fusion. Not because I'm cheap, not because I don't value the product, because the triangle conditions shifted. My time is cheap, my money is an issue. The decision flips just like that. This is the part most YouTube gurus and content creators won't talk about. Your customer's decision to buy has almost nothing to do with how good your product is at the end of the day, but it has everything to do with where they are in their triangle. So the real question is not, how do I get more people to buy my stuff? The real question is, which condition of the triangle is your product or my product solving for actually? Is it problem, time, or money? The ideal customer everybody likes to talk about sits at a very specific point on this triangle. They have a clear, urgent problem. They have very little time available, like their calendar is completely packed and they're drowning in work, but they have money available. A budget to invest in solving a problem that's costing them more than the solution. When the conditions align like that, the decision to buy is not a sale anymore, it's relief. Your product is not something they need to be convinced about. It's the fastest path out of a painful situation they already want to avoid. I most definitely have no real desire to spend hours or weeks learning the ins and outs of DaVinci Resolve and Fusion. I wanted a solution to my problem and get it without investing serious time. Which brings me back to my client I mentioned in the beginning, the one with the 40,000 followers on Instagram and 50K on Facebook, but zero conversion. They fell in a trap that most content creators in the educational space fall into and don't know about. They make their content for two different groups, learners and buyers. So the learners, they have a problem, right? They have abundant time as well. Maybe they have money, maybe they don't. But they're not planning to buy. They're planning to watch every video my client makes, piece together the solution themselves, and execute whatever the solution is on their own timeline. They're not wrong in doing so, they're just not the guys who will buy my client's stuff. The buyers, on the other hand, they also have a problem. They have no time, but they have the money. They watch free content as proof my client knows what they're doing. Then they buy the product because it's the fastest way to solve their problem. Now, if you don't know who you're speaking to, like my client at the moment, the message gets confusing. The free content appeals to the learners, but the paid offer requires them to be in a buyer's condition. So you build an audience of people who love your free stuff and will never buy. Then you wonder, like my client, why your conversion rate is zero. This is not a thumbnail, title, or hook issue you hear so much about. This is a targeting problem. And the fix isn't better content necessarily. It's understanding this triangle well enough to know exactly who you're building each piece of content for. And once you know that, you can design your content strategy around it. This is not one of those you have to understand your customer speeches, okay? Just think about it this way. If your ideal customer has no time but loads of cash, free content has to create urgency. What's the cost of inaction? Not to manipulate them, but to show them what they're losing out on by not solving this problem. Time, revenue, energy, sanity, whatever it comes down to. Then position your paid product as the fast path, not the only path. So you're not saying you're incapable of figuring this out yourself. You're saying you don't have the time to figure this out yourself, and here's the shortcut I built for you. Now, if your ideal customer has loads of time but no money, it's a different approach. You can't build a $1,000 course expecting someone with no money to buy it. They won't. Not because your course is bad, simply because their triangle doesn't support that purchase decision. They have time to figure out the problem on their own time. And there's also a third option. The ideal customer could have both time and money. So your content needs to be proof of your expertise in a way so they choose you over every other option. They could buy from you, they could buy from a competitor. They could figure it out themselves. So your job is to make your solution feel like the best choice, not the cheapest, the smartest. Either way, your messaging needs to meet your customer where they are, not where you want your product to be. Most content creators sit down to make a video and ask one question. What topic will get the most views? That's a wrong question in my opinion. The right question should be, which viewer am I serving with this video? The buyer or the learner? And what position are they in when it comes to their triangle? If I answer that first, everything else, like the thumbnail, the titles, the hooks, become obvious. Problem, time, money. If your viewer has the problem, they'll watch. If they have the problem and loads of time, they'll figure it out themselves. If they have the problem and no time, they will consider buying. The mistake most educational content creators make is treating every viewer as if they're standing at the same starting line, and they're not. Some are 6 months away from buying, some are 6 minutes away from buying. Some will never buy, and that's fine as well. They're simply not your customers, they're your audience, and those are vastly different things. My client with the 40,000 followers on Instagram has an audience for sure, but no buyers just yet. Once they understand the triangle, three things change. First, they stop blaming the product when conversion is low. They start looking at their audience and ask if this is people with time or money, or if they even have a problem in the first place. Lots of people just want to get entertained with no problem at all. Either way, my client has to be more specific with their messaging. Basically, to position their solution as the obvious choice for someone with a problem, no time but cash to spend. So, if selling digital products is the goal here, the quality of the product is not necessarily the deciding factor for someone else to buy it. The customer's position within the triangle is much more important. The question then is no longer, how do I get more people to buy? The question is, which triangle condition am I building for? And is my product aligned with it? So that's one framework to apply when thinking about selling digital products. If you want to see how I apply systems thinking to content creation and not just to selling stuff better, I've got this video right here that breaks down a 3-step content pipeline which turned my chaotic production process into a reliable system. Make sure to watch that next, and I see you over there.